Right now, we're going to meet Taryn, who's diagnosed with body dysmorphia. Taryn, what is it like to live with body dysmorphia?
It's like having somebody stand next to you at all times and just be like, you look gross. Your hair looks weird. Your legs look funny. You shouldn't stand like that because it makes you look strange. Yeah, it's like having somebody constantly pointing out your flaws and like making fun of you for them, making you feel belittled for them. But it isn't having somebody do it because it's my own brain.
What is it like having those constant intrusive thoughts?
I don't know, there's just something about hating the bones of yourself, hating everything that you are, that makes you feel worthless, just terrible. And I know that I'm worth more than my appearance, and I'm worth more than the way that other people perceive me, but I know that now, and I may not be able to realize that later, if that makes any sense. Like, even though I know something and I'm able to tell myself something on a day like today where it's not so bad, excuse me, there have been times when I've just looked at myself in the mirror and I've said, like, you are nothing, like, you are disgusting, like, and I wish that I didn't think that way, but, like, I can't help it.
Now, this is a really unique disorder to discuss because so often we're taught not to comment on another person's physical appearance.
Yeah, I think it's weird for a lot of people to talk about, and that's part of why it's not talked about, is because people don't want to comment on other people's physical appearances, and they don't want to seem like they're thinking about other people's physical appearances at all.
So I guess a worry that I had coming into this interview is that if I asked you questions about your perceived flaws, because I want to understand the way your mind works and the obstacles you deal with, I was afraid that those questions would reinforce to you that these flaws are real.
I'm thinking about it 24/7, so, like, so long as someone's not rude about it, I kind of want to talk about it. Like, it's always in my brain, and I always feel like I shouldn't talk about it because people don't want to hear it.
With that established, feel free to share insight of your perceived flaws.
These are things that I know to be true. It's not how I feel necessarily, it's just how it is for me. So talking about something like my eyelids, I know that they're crooked, and I know that other people don't care, but it is something that I focus on, weirdly. So I focus in on things that maybe wouldn't matter to other people. When they look at me, they wouldn't even notice. And is it okay if I talk about some of those things, like specific things, or would you rather me not?
With it, you can share as much as you'd like.
Okay, so like, since I am on video, something that I notice a lot is what I think of as a double chin, but whenever I talk to people about it, they're like, you don't have a double chin, but I see it.
Would it be correct to say that body dysmorphia isn't just the obsession of these perceived flaws, but also it's really kind of like the inability to see one's true self?
It feels like you're looking at a funhouse mirror and somebody else is looking at you through, like, a normal mirror, or, like, it's just looking at you straight on. It's kind of the inability to have a very clear and accurate sense of self, both physically and mentally.
What are the earliest symptoms of body dysmorphic disorder that you can recall?
Once I found those, they were Tumblr accounts about, like, I don't know, I don't know what I'm allowed to say, but they were called, like, Pro Anna, and I found the girls on there. They were so tiny, and I was like, oh my gosh, that is what I am supposed to look like. At, like, 11, I was, like, in middle school. There was just something inside me that was like, okay, that's it. Like, that's how we're gonna get noticed. That's how we're gonna get attention. You're gonna be really skinny.
Is there anything somebody could have said to you back then to help you see that those people really just needed some professional help. Their eating habits weren't healthy, and in fact, they were really deadly, and they certainly weren't something you should be aspiring to.
Nobody knew. Like, my parents didn't know. Nobody knows about this until, like, this year when I'm diagnosed and I've come open and clean about this and been like, yeah, I've been struggling with this for years.
Perhaps that part of your story can serve as sort of a cautionary tale that displays what could happen when a child is given unfiltered access to the internet.
Maybe I shouldn't have been on the computer, or maybe there should have been some sort of blocks when I was that young and impressionable. I don't blame my parents for any of the body dysmorphia. That wasn't their fault. They had no idea what I was doing on the internet.
So after finding this problematic content, what happened?
I was just thinking about my body all the time. And I was so young. Like, when I was 14, 15 in high school, I really wanted to get plastic surgery on my cheeks and on my neck. Like, badly. Like, I begged my mom to get me plastic surgery. Which I don't think is normal. So if you're doing that, maybe think for just a second about, like, where your state is at. But yeah, I'm thinking a lot about wanting to look better for other people, I guess, which I hate.
Why do you care what other people think?
A lot of it, I feel, is just wanting to fit in and not being able to do that. Even if I am able to fit in, my brain tells me, like, you are different just inherently. These are the things that need to be done to get better. But I know if I did those things, if I got liposuction or whatever, I'd move on to something else. You know, like, it's a constant struggle for perfection, even though I know that nobody is expecting me to be perfect. I don't know, it's just a lot of pressure that I've put on myself to impress other people, I guess. But it's not impressing, it's just passing as someone who looks normal, because to me, I don't.
Do you spend a lot of time on social media comparing yourself to others?
I try not to. I think like 6 months ago or something, I got really angry one night and I went and I unfollowed like a bunch of people on Instagram. Not that they're doing anything wrong, but just because like I was looking at their posts so much, like workout and exercise accounts and whatnot. I was just like, why can't I look like that? So when I see somebody's Instagram and they look so great, I can't just put it away. I think about it for a long time. And I'll come back to their Instagram, later. I'll be like, yeah, this is what you saw earlier and you still don't look like that. So I don't know, it's a little cruel.
What do you think is the most important thing for others to understand about body dysmorphic disorder?
That it's real. Just that I'm not exaggerating or making things up. I'm not making excuses when I cancel plans just because I don't want to go. I really am struggling. Like, people who have this, actually, you know what, like, body dysmorphic disorder is one of the deadliest diagnoses, and I don't like to say that, but it makes you hate yourself, like everything about yourself, and it can put you in a really dangerous mindset.
This diagnosis can be so severe, but somebody on the outside might not even be able to tell.
Like, you never know what is going on in somebody's brain. I may look like a normal person who has normal thoughts and is, totally normal. I don't like that word at all, but I'm not. And I think that a lot of people who grow up with mental illnesses, mental disorders, they learn to put on a sort of mask when they're talking to people. I'm working to take off that mask. I don't think it should be anything to be ashamed of at all.
Can you describe a way that body dysmorphia disrupts your daily routine?
Let's say I'm driving. Okay, I'm driving in the car and I've come up to a stoplight, and it's always awkward when you turn your head and you see somebody in the car next to you, and most people are just like, oh, okay, I don't want to look at them, and they move on. I can't move on. I'm thinking that whole time, I'm sweating. It feels like the longest minute of my life. I'm like, oh my God, they literally are just looking at me, thinking about how ugly I look. And it sounds silly to say out loud because I know that it's not true. Maybe, you know, I can't be sure, and that's the whole problem. Everything I do, I'm trying to picture myself from an outside perspective in like the meanest way possible. Like if my enemy who just hates my guts was sitting across from me right now, what would they see? And then that's what I tell myself. If someone just looks at me, I'm like, oh my God, I didn't want to be seen today. I think about it a lot. Like for the rest of the car drive, I'm trying to look good. Like, I'm sitting up straight and I'm like trying to look I guess just good for whoever happens to be driving next to me. So I mean, like, saying it out loud, it seems pretty irrational, but it doesn't feel irrational, like, at all. It feels so heavy, I guess. It just feels like everyone is constantly looking at me. Grocery shopping is another thing I struggle with immensely. I mean, like, I either don't go grocery shopping or somebody else pushes the cart and puts the stuff in there for me because I can't do it. Like, there's just something about other people watching me and knowing what I'm going to eat that in my brain, I'm convinced that they're like, she is way too fat to be buying that. And I don't like that word either. It's a lot of internalized fat phobia.
What are some of the biggest misconceptions about body dysmorphic disorder?
I think people think it's as simple as not liking the way that you look, and it isn't. It's so much deeper than that. It's not knowing what you actually look like. It's a lot of confusion in the brain, and it's also more debilitating than people expect because everybody has days where they feel blah, or they don't like the clothes that they're wearing, and they, you know, it's laundry day, whatever, they had to wear something they think they don't look great in. I wish people would know that that's every day for me, and that sometimes, like, I just can't function because of it. I cannot function like somebody else might be able to. Yeah, I think it's really important to know that it's real.
Who's most likely to be impacted by body dysmorphia?
Anybody can have body dysmorphic disorder. The most beautiful person in the world could have it, and they still would hate themselves and think that there was something wrong. It has nothing to do with what I look like. I mean, it does to me, but it doesn't really. It's really hard to explain because I am so focused on, like, the physical aspects of it, but it's definitely a mind game of, like, it doesn't matter what I look like, but it so does. I don't know. And it can happen in men too. It's not just women.
When did you first realize that these constant intrusive thoughts were something very serious and dangerous?
So I went to therapy. I've been in therapy for 8 months or so now, like every week. And I didn't even really realize that it was affecting me that much. I definitely knew it was affecting me. I knew that I had some body dysmorphia issues because that's a word that people throw around all the time. But I didn't think that it was like a diagnosis. I just thought I had bad self-esteem and I needed to suck it up. But my therapist, I don't even remember exactly, I mean, obviously we were talking about my body, but I don't know what I said to make her respond like this, but she was like, I've been thinking for the past couple of weeks, like, and then she went through questions and whatnot, and I was like, that makes so much sense, because if you read about it, like, the definition, it's like thinking for hours each day about one's appearance, and I mean it. I mean hours. Like, I mean a huge chunk of my day, and it's not like I'm just sitting there, like, that. I mean, on bad days I might, to be honest with you, but yeah, I didn't realize at all that other people weren't constantly thinking about their flaws. So it wasn't until she diagnosed me that I understood the severity of it myself.
Have you fully accepted your diagnosis?
Sometimes I feel like I am faking, even though I know I'm not. Like yesterday, I was feeling pretty nervous about the interview, and I was like, I know what I experienced, like, this is true, but are other people going to believe me, and am I just faking this somehow? Like, am I just overreacting? But I know I'm not. It's just hard, yeah, it's hard to qualify yourself in the same way that you would qualify another person, for me anyway.
If somebody's watching this video and thinking, she's describing everything I'm experiencing, what would you say to that person?
I would recommend that they talk to somebody about it, and it can just be like a friend or whatever. I think it's important, even before you go to therapy, to get your mind around what's going on in your own head, or at least it is for me. Like, I like to feel clear-minded, and sometimes talking through things can help that. So I would say talk to somebody, even if it's really scary. Like, it will help in the long run. And from my experience, most people are willing to try to understand. Even if they can't understand, they want to help you. So once you've done that, I don't know, look into your options, and if therapy is an option for you, it's a great tool for me.
What advice do you have for somebody who loves a person with body dysmorphia? Perhaps a parent of a child exhibiting symptoms.
It's definitely tricky if you think that somebody is struggling with anything, but you're not totally sure because maybe they don't want to tell you, maybe they're not sure. As a child's perspective, who, you know, I dealt with this as a teenager and a child, I didn't want my mom to butt into my business, but maybe she needed to. Like from a slightly more grown-up perspective, I kind of wish that I had been sat down and talked to, like, what is going on in your brain? Like, just very respectful. If it's something really bad, try your best not to react. Like, it can be a really sad situation, but like crying doesn't help, because then I feel like I've disappointed somebody. And so I think that the best thing, ask, you know, like maybe sit them down and be like, I've noticed that that you seem to be struggling with this problem. Maybe send them a link to the video if this gets published. I don't know. I don't want anybody to feel the way that I do. But if you have a child who is feeling this way, it's really important to know. I wish that I had been able to get help sooner. So if you talk to them and they say, yes, this is how I feel, I've really been struggling with the way that I look, and I didn't want to tell you because it's hard to tell your parents things when you're that young. You don't want to disappoint them. Maybe see about, you know, therapy for them, or just talk to them yourselves. Or I think a lot of people get a lot of help from group therapy. Doesn't help me, but I think it can help a lot of people. I don't know.
If you could record a message to all the other people out there in the world living with body dysmorphic disorder, what would you say?
You are, sorry, it's hard because I don't want anybody to feel like this ever. I wish that I was like, the soul bearer, because it is awful. I just hope that if there's anybody else struggling with this, I hope you know that those thoughts, they're just thoughts. Like, they're thoughts in your brain and your brain alone. It's important to know that you are worthy of love, no matter what you look like. Everybody is deserving of love and of happiness and of comfort and peace. And even though your brain makes it hard for you, or makes it hard for me anyway, to accept that, it's the truth. If you can look at everybody else, no matter what they look like, no matter what they're struggling with, and think, oh, I love them, like they're just a person, then you have to have the faith that other people are looking at you and thinking of you in that same way. And I know it's hard, but that's so important, so important to just try and remember that, like, your thoughts are not the only thoughts that are going on in this world. There are like billions of other people who are thinking about themselves and not about you.
During our conversation, Taryn told me that she's trying to better understand herself by creating self-images. I wanted to end this interview by sharing Taryn's artwork. Taryn, thank you for your strength and for your honesty.